Hi, my name is Lin Nguyen. Today, welcome to another session on mastering SAP monitoring without CCMS or Solution Manager. Today's session, we will focus on SAP Landscape Transformation product, which is used for replication between multiple SAP systems and non-SAP systems. It's live replication of data used using trigger at the database level. And related to this topic is also RFC Connection, which is one of the methods for connecting SLT partner systems together. So it's critical to monitor them and availability performance. About us, we've been in SAP business for 21 years, providing expertise from global SAP Basis Consulting. The last 16 years, bringing innovations to the market in terms of system management. The on-premise solution today covers the Microsoft solution for management pack that covers SAP, Business Objects, SAP HANA, ASE, and various different features and functions on those SAP ecosystem. Those SAP monitoring is now leveraged in the cloud by IT Conductor as a platform without installation. Via subscription and web-based, we're able to agentlessly monitor and manage the SAP environment, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. There are a couple of publications we have. One that's previously published for SLT monitoring as well as the RFC Connection Monitoring. I can show you roughly the content there. If you want to look here, we have the RFC Connection Monitoring blog and also the SLT. So these go into a little bit more detail about configuration, etc. So I welcome you to check out those content. We'll step back here and take a look at some of the details about this monitoring. From availability and performance challenges standpoint, these are the reasons why it's important to monitor. For SLT, it involves partners, multiple systems, combinations of systems, complex schema of various different tables and objects that are trigger-based, and the connectivity, the data flow between systems and their real-time replication status. So there is definitely data latency issues also. You're replicating on a frequent basis and high volume of data that needs to be monitored. From an RFC connectivity standpoint, this is the cornerstone of SAP Ecosystem connectivity. So it's critical to maintain and monitor those targets to make sure that the system is available, that the transfer of data, latency of the connection itself is not problematic, which may impact the performance or availability of those interfaces. So the impact of sending or receiving system on the overall service availability of the system. And a central monitoring is obviously one of the challenges because of the numerous systems involved. The data flow between the systems, outages and delays can cause service level disruptions. So what's available in SLT monitoring from SAP? There is the LTR, which is the configuration monitoring dashboard inside a NetWeaver Business Client web GUI. This is a GUI that provides you the ability to look at the number of batch process available that's utilized by SLT, the connectivity between the source and the target system, and the status of these triggers that are based on this table replication. So statistically, these tables have insert, update, delete, and the latency between the data transfer is also shown. So you can look into more detail. This is not a centralized enterprise monitoring solution. We can take a look at the platform itself and show you as far as what the actual product looks like. So this is LT, and when you launch, you have the ability to look into specific configurations. So the way that the platform works is that you engage in a transaction. Once it's launched, it brings up the business client. You have a configuration that is a schema that the tables belong to. So if you clicked on these, that's what we've launched into the configuration today. We have looked at the demo configuration. And you can see here of the various tabs, you have the jobs and connection reporting the source system for replication and the target where the data is delivered. The trigger status of each of these tables, the statistics for each of those replication over the last 24 hours, latency, etc. So that's monitored by the workbench itself. So that is a overview of the configuration using the LTR transaction. So what else is available from the tools? The next set of tools, the LTR, which we looked at. This is the snapshots of some of those screens we show you. Inside the SAP GUI transaction, there's various different ways to also monitor. There is the LT replication server cockpit and monitoring. This transaction LTRO is a global monitor, so you can actually monitor multiple different schema under replication. Takes a look at almost the same information. And LTRC is similar to LTRO, but you can only view one configuration at a time. And then there is also the migration workbench monitor for mass data transfer. So these are GUI based, and you'd have to launch them from SAP GUI and refresh them on a regular basis. So let's take a look at those examples here. So we have this is, as you can see, the transaction here that we launched is LTRO. You can see that the status of the batch job environment that are processing those replication on the SLT system. And then it looks at the target environment, their connectivity status. And also look at resource. So from here, if the resource consumption from the OS standpoints are also reported on the host itself, on the target. Okay. And we'll look at this configuration, which is part of the schema. So that's LTRO. We also the LTRC, which looks at one particular configuration. You can go into here and see. So you have a table overview, replication status, current actions. You have a transfer monitor as well for each of these tables. And then you have the logs. The log statistics will show you if there was initial load on some of these tables that the first time you set up the table for application, it shows the initial load and their status, and access to some expert functions as well. On the mass transfer workbench, it's very similar. It's almost overlapping with the LTRO transaction. You have the various steps that you can rerun for general load of the data, calculation, the application log, and the runtime environment. Activities will include the transfer, so a parallel transfer for source and target. You can see that the log of the last transfer here, you can refresh those. So if you have set up for, every 5 minute or real-time replication, you can see some of the log here. Okay, so that is the overview of these transactions, LTRC, LTRO, and migration workbench. What else do we have in terms of these transactions? The solution manager, which is the tool that is used for centralized monitoring of SAP. So there is a extensive block you can look at to set up the monitoring of solution manager, using it to connect to your SLT system, setting it up as a landscape monitor for your replication. But you can see that the system monitoring capability of Solution Manager does not allow the viewing of details for each table or related trigger. It basically contains an aggregated information at a schema level. So there's job, trigger, and stable status. So that's something to note, and very important that it doesn't give you the detail level down at the table. So if you're replicating 20 tables, it's going to give you an aggregated view of the schema object. Okay, so that's the main difference between that and the detail monitor inside some of those other transactions we look at inside the GUI or LTR. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looks like in Solution Manager. You can see here that we have an example Solution Manager implementation, and this system is the NetWeaver ABAP that's running the SLT environment. Some of the things that come up are the SLT latency metrics that are being monitored. And then you have the latency over the last 24 hours. You have also the schema latency. Again, as I said, it's done at the schema level. The table performance metrics are also aggregated information. They're not at the individual tables. So I think the functionality is a little bit lacking for what we want in terms of details for SLT monitoring. So continuing on, again, this is a snapshot of that. So some of the other solution set that we presenting are without the configuration or dependency on CCMS, or SAP, or the solution manager. So from external management standpoint, we have the SAP management pack for Microsoft SCOM. It's an Microsoft product for on-premise deployment. And it automatically discovers the schema. So if you mark essentially active on SLT configuration tab, will automatically discover the schema and include the tables for monitoring. So that includes the health and the performance of each application table. The RFC destination monitoring also includes by the SAP management pack. There is zero configuration on SAP side. So from a benefit standpoint, it's pretty much as low configuration as possible, and the auto discovery will start monitoring both the RFC as well as the SLT configuration. Okay, so here's a couple screens examples of the monitoring health. We'll step and look into those as soon as we get into the demo portion. So taking a look at the schema object is an example here, table level, their availability, their replication age, their status, as well as delays and the performance of the actual table transfer itself, any kind of latency in the time. So here's a chart of some of those performance metrics that's monitored. Okay. The other solution is from IT-Conductor, which is cloud-based, and it's a SaaS platform, so there's no software, no licensing, managed and monitoring services with the subject matter expert guidance. So we use best practices template to monitor and manage out of the box. So if you add a NetWeaver environment that includes your SLT environment, it will discover that there are schema and tables to monitor and includes that into the service hierarchy for monitoring. Okay. As an example, we can include those either SAP management pack or in the IT Conductor, the RFC monitoring, which is included and is part and parcel of availability and performance. So again, since SLT depends heavily on either RFC connection or direct database via JDBC connections, the most majority of SAP system will replicate via RFC. So these products cover those monitoring of availability and latency. So the simple approach to SLT monitoring in IT Conductor includes the automatic discovery of the schema, including the tables and monitoring, the health and performance of each table, as well as the RFC destination included under the health, included with zero CCMS configuration. So this is an example of what it looks like inside the IT Conductor service grid. This is one system that runs the SLT system. And under there are RFC destinations. So this is actually an SLT target for an RFC. And here is the actual schema that includes those tables. Each table is monitored with the active status and latency status of their information. And these information can be time synchronized so that when you have an issue, you can quickly do root cause analysis. So at this stage, we can take a look at the solution itself. So in IT Conductor, when we look here, you are able to drill down from a system standpoint, look at the health status. And within this service grid, you have the RFC connectivity. So for instance, here is one RFC that is discovered. You can take a look at the availability of those RFC. That means we can reach those RFC and their latency. So if you were to put these together, you might have a view that includes both communication standpoint, the connectivity, and you also have the ability to look at each individual table. So under SLT, these discovered tables are being monitored. If there is latency, you will see those charts on the same. And again, you can subscribe to notification if you want to put a threshold on. If latency exceeds a certain amount of time, you can be notified if it goes to yellow or red status. And this entire tree has impact analysis that provides a weighting system so that your service can be managed as a service level, as an entirety of an ecosystem, if you will. So this is kind of a high level, and this is again self-discovery and auto-managed from a template and best practices standpoint. Similarly, if you are in the System Center product, so System Center is a Microsoft product. So within System Center, let's take a look at SLT configuration. So in SLT, we can look at the actual schema here, the similar one that we looked at for the IT Conductor, and also we looked at the dashboard inside SAP previously. So these are the tables that are discovered. We're monitoring their availability status as well as the performance status. So right now they're all healthy. You are able to drill in if you want into a health status. We can take a look at all available. So looking at the trigger status. So if there's any problem with the triggers on the source table, we also monitor that here. The overall status of each individual table. The rate of insertion records per hour, and the latency of the data transfer from when the master, the source, generates the data and when the actual target catches up with that data. Right, so that's the health status monitor. From a performance standpoint, we can take a look at performance overview. Here we can take a look at multiple tables. So let's say we wanted to look at the latency. We can quickly just pull up latency of multiple tables. These are the actual performance metrics for those particular tables. So in System Center, we have the SAP Management Pack that monitors these particular tables under the schema that's been replicated by SLT. Okay. We're also looking at the RFC connectivity standpoint. So from an RFC, if we went back to the dashboard and navigate to RFC destinations, these RFC are discovered. Once we enable RFC monitoring, we can put in the configuration here. I'll give you an example. So in our management pack, we just simply go into each SAP system, insert in the RFC destination name, activate the SLT configuration, and that's it. That's the configuration to monitor both SLT and RFC connectivity. So with that, you have the ability to quickly configure without touching Solution Manager or SAP itself. So in here we have healthy. So if you click on these, the RFC itself is being monitored for its availability and its latency. So essentially, if you have a communication issue between these partners, there's either availability or ping latency will show up as a problem. You can also view the performance. Or if you are from a single system and you have multiple RFC connectivity, we can also bring those up and say, look at my performance view. Again, any of those monitors can be subscribed so that you can generate the alerts if it exceeds a particular threshold. Those monitors could be overwritten in System Center. So here we show the latency of this particular RFC destination. Okay. So this is a simple way, no config, no solution manager, no CCMS way of monitoring those SLT and RFC connectivity. So Again, thank you. This wraps up that content, and we have some other deep dive sessions going on. If you like to, the next session we'll look at the HANA monitoring and platform management for the HANA database platform, as well as the automation of various DBA tasks on the HANA platform. And soon after that, we also look at other database platform like the SAP ASE and Oracle database monitoring. If you're interested, we welcome you to visit IT-Conductor.com, our partner aussiesoft-consulting.com, where you can find further events you can sign up for, as well as trial on these solutions. Thank you.